In this video, I'm going to walk you through 7 essential steps you need to take before starting your Amazon wholesale business. I've scaled my business to 7 figures, and by the end of this video, you'll have the exact checklist I used to properly set up the foundation for wholesale FBA. So the first thing you're going to want to do is establish a business entity. So that can be an LLC, an S Corp, a C Corp. You're going to want to separate yourself from the business. So that way, in case anything does happen, you get sued, knock on wood, anything does happen, you are protected and your assets are protected, and it's a completely different entity from yourself. So me personally, I started off with just a regular basic LLC, which I got on LegalZoom. And then I started working directly with a financial firm and they handle all of my paperwork and everything for me. Then I switched over to an S Corp once I started doing a little bit bigger revenue. Once I started doing 20K, 50K per month. And that's when I switched over to an S Corp, and now I pay myself on payroll. This firm handles all of my bookkeeping, my financials, my filings, everything like that. So if you can find somebody that does everything for you for a monthly fee, it's a huge weight off your shoulders, and that way you're legally protected. All right, let's move on to number 2. That's going to be obtaining an EIN. So an EIN is a set of numbers. It's basically your business's social security number. So this number is going to be what you're going to be using for your seller's permit, and it lets you make tax exempt purchases as well. It's also known as a federal tax ID. You can get this from the IRS, or if you consult with the CPA, they can also get this for you. It shouldn't be more than a couple $100. The next thing you're going to want to get is a business bank account. So for me, I like keeping all of my purchases separate. I have a completely separate business bank account than my personal bank account. When I first started, I did mix all of my purchases together. It was a complete mess. I recommend just start from the get-go with the business bank account, and that way you can streamline the entire bookkeeping process. And also with the business bank account, you can actually open, sometimes they will offer you a business credit card when you apply for a business bank account. So I went with Chase, and Chase offered me the Inc. Unlimited, which is a great card, 0% interest for a whole year. And with that, you can start placing a couple of your first purchase orders and everything like that, which leads me to this next point, which is capital. You will need some capital to start the wholesale model. It's not like arbitrage where it's a low barrier entry where you can start with a couple like $500 to $1,000. Wholesale requires a significant starting budget. The reason being is because suppliers are going to ask for a MOQ, which is a minimum order quantity. For instance, some suppliers will say you will need to take the whole load, which can be 500 units times $10 a pop will be, I don't know, $5,000. So that kind of adds up. So you have to meet supplier MOQs. You also need a budget for your supplies, commercial space, or if you want to outsource from the beginning, you will need budget for a 3PL, which we'll get into a little bit later in this video. But you could get business funding, like I mentioned, when you set up your LLC. If you have excellent credit, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to get approved for a high limit credit card with either Chase, American Express, and that can really kickstart your Amazon journey. So now let's get into the nitty gritty. So you will need a professional email domain. This is so you look a little bit more professional for suppliers. You don't want to contact them and say, hey, I want to open a wholesale account, and your email ends with the Gmail or with the Yahoo. It just doesn't look professional. I recommend to get a professional email domain, something that's like this, sales@mycompany.com. It shows suppliers that you're serious, you have a legit company and distribution, and you're not just an average Amazon seller. You can also link this to your website, which we're going to get into in a quick second, and that'll make it all come together, and it'll show the supplier that you're really serious and you're about the business. All right, so professional email website. So this should be linked directly to your email domain. So there's 3 types of websites. There is a landing page, which just has your basic information on it. Nothing too fancy. It just shows about what you do, who you are as a company, how long you've been established, what type of products you carry, etc., etc. Contact information, where you're located, just basic info. And then there's a value prop website. So a value prop is basically something that shows distributors and brands basically what value you can provide for them. For example, there's some that have like a brand enhancement. They show like map control and everything like that. So that it can be a pretty bonus when you're opening accounts with wholesale suppliers. They always want to be working with people that are willing to provide a little bit of value to them. The other example type is going to be an e-com website. So this can be like a Shopify or maybe just a Wix.com website, and that shows you're already selling on your own website. So this is basically just an e-com website. It just has products, maybe like, certain brands and categories that you're already selling. Sometimes this can pass as a dummy website. You can just have somebody create something for you on Fiverr. As a new seller, you're not going to already be selling stuff. So this is like a way to show that you're already established and you're selling on different websites, not just on Amazon. And usually suppliers like that. So a pro tip is that you can actually create a value prop website and an e-com website. So it's more of a hybrid model. I've had a bit of success opening wholesale accounts using this hybrid model. So what I do is I have a page that has like a value prop. Like I basically try to come after brands nowadays where I tell them like I will enhance your brand. I will also run PPC for you. I will optimize your listings, etc., etc. And then I have a tab that says shop. And then I show them different brands that I'm already carrying in my own personal website. All right, so now let's get into the 7th essential tip, which is commercial shipping address. You will need a commercial shipping address, but there's ways that you can mitigate this if you're just operating outside of your residential address. So certain suppliers will only work with companies who have a commercial address. So this is how I've been able to mitigate this. So you can rent or lease your own space. That can be a warehouse, that can be a small office or a storage unit. I've honestly scaled up to my first 7 figures strictly out of a storage unit, and I did start using a prep center somewhere in between that. So just with the storage unit and then also sending stuff to a prep center, I was able to scale to 7 figures. So just do what's best for you. Let me get into the other ones. So you can also work with a prep center. They will usually charge based on your volume that you're moving. So for instance, there's a prep center that I know, 500 to 1,000 units is like $1.25, and then 1,000 units or more will come down to $1, and then 1,500 units per month and more will come down to 80 cents. So the more volume, the less the price. But just be considerate of how this will affect your margin. You need to calculate it in the product cost as well. With the prep center, you can be completely hands off. Nowadays, I use strictly prep centers. I don't like to touch or see any inventory. When I first started though, I did like I mentioned, I did use a storage unit and a prep center in combination, and then I was able to scale to the point where I've completely removed myself from the day-to-day operation, and now I just run strictly out of a prep center. So just things to keep in mind is that the prep center will cost a little bit of money, but you also free up a little bit of your time. The storage unit, you will have to pay for rent. If you don't have Wi-Fi, you will have to get Wi-Fi, all those different things. So make sure it has power outlets and everything like that. And if you're getting a warehouse, then also be considerate of the overhead costs. So each one has their pros and cons. It just depends which way you want to operate. So you can also work from home. So not all suppliers are going to ship directly to a residential address. Some of them are going to only work with people who have a commercial address. But what I have found when I first started wholesale, I started with working with smaller distributors that were actually willing to ship to a residential address. And then I would prep all of my inventory out of my house before I got the storage unit. So you can look for these small to medium-sized distributors that are actually willing to ship to a residential address. They are out there, but some of the best suppliers are going to just want to work directly with people who have a commercial shipping address. So another option is working with suppliers who ship directly to Amazon. So it's not the industry standard. Not all suppliers are going to even want to work with Amazon sellers, but there is a few that will work with Amazon sellers. But you have to make sure that they are authorized distributors. They're not some sketchy Telegram suppliers, WhatsApp throwing deals and stuff, because those guys are out there. You want to make sure they have the authentic invoices and that they will also prep for you. So they're very hard to find, but they are out there. Actually, one of my best suppliers is Preps for Me. It took me like 2 years to actually come across this supplier. So they are out there. You just have to make sure that they are prepping stuff properly and they know what they're doing, because if let's say, for example, you're shipping out a 3-pack of granola bars and they accidentally just ship them into 2 packs, then that could ruin your entire flow and totally mess up your entire business. So just be wary about these suppliers. And now just to recap, there is 7 essential steps to starting Amazon wholesale, and that is to get a legal business entity, whether it's an LLC, S Corp, C Corp. Get your EIN, that's your business's social security number, extremely important. Open up a business bank account, keep all of your finances separate. Also try and get some business funding, get a credit card, but just get some capital in order so that you can start with a good budget and scale up quickly. Get your professional email domain so you look professional when you're doing outreach for these suppliers. Also set up a professional website, whether that's a value prop, e-com, or just a landing page, you want to make sure you're set up properly and that you look professional. And then have a commercial address in place, or get set up with a prep center, get a storage unit, or just have some sort of space that you can use as a commercial address. And then lastly, it's not on here, but figure out how you want to operate. Do you want to be hands off? Do you want to just ship directly to the prep center? Do you want to prep all of your inventory and get your hands dirty? Do you want to open up a storage unit? Do you want to open up a warehouse? Do you want to do it big? So keep in mind how you want to operate your business. This is a real business. It's not just like, I mean, it can be a side hustle, but wholesale is more where you're really scaling things up and taking things seriously. So you want to keep in mind how you want to operate your business.